What's up guys, this is Yasin and welcome to the OCG metagame breakdown compilation. It's not really like a breakdown report because it really is like a big compilation of a huge amount of decks, like 1,747 top performing decks from 303 tournaments since April to June. So it's pretty huge, and it's really just to show like the impact of Justice Hunters, because obviously we're about to get that in August. Right now we're still focused on Duelist Advance, but in the OCG they had it the exact other way around. So they had Justice Hunters first and then Duelist Advance, which is why there's a deck out there that I'm not going to spoil too much that was actually really good on release and then fell off a little bit because of a deck that came out in Justice Hunters, which I'm also not going to be spoiling too much. But anyways, before we go any further, you already know the drill. Smash the like and subscribe button. It really motivates me a lot to keep breathing and not dying. And also, shoutouts to my Blues and Crystron spreadsheet. There is a third one coming up real soon. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but stay tuned. And also, shoutouts to my sponsors, Supreme Pro at tsx1.com. And use the coupon code YACIN10 for 10% off. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Okay, so obviously, the early OCG 2025, whatever, something metagame was shaped by 3 themes from Justice Hunters. The only 3 themes from Justice Hunters, which are Dracotail, Yummy, and K9. And this is very interesting because even the Crossover Breakers, I think that's the name of the set, the one with Raziel and Maliss, it had 2 extremely powerful decks. But then the third one, Ryuki, definitely isn't even anywhere close to like the other 2 decks. But in Justice Hunters, all 3 decks are extremely broken, which is like unheard of. Usually we always get like 1 to 2 garbage decks per set at the very least, like even in like Duelist Alliance, which was one of the best sets of all time. But yeah, this one, quite literally nothing in the whole set is bad. The ban list that they had that month actually kind of destroyed Raziel because, hold on a second, they limited X, I think, the sword or something like that. Hold on a second, I'm pretty sure like everything is limited except ice. So yeah, Raziel Gaga is still kind of playable in the OCG, but it's not really worth playing. So yeah, Maliss is still very much playable because what are you gonna do? Like limit Dormouse, whatever, it doesn't do that much because there's a lot of ways to like get to it. Really just Raziel that suffered the most from the ban list. And yeah, Duelist Advance really just changed everything because again, it's irrelevant for us because we already have the set now, but because it introduced Vanquish Soul to the equation, which is extremely busted with the K9 engine. So this is what we can expect as soon as we're gonna have Justice Hunters. Vanquish Soul is one heck of a terrifying beast because, I mean, it's super consistent. It plays on the opponent's turn. It has turn 0 options because of Holy Sue, being able to summon itself, and then if you reveal an Earth and a Dark, you can take control of an opponent's monster, or if you reveal a Fire and a Dark, if I recall correctly, you get a special summon like a Raziel monster from the deck. I think there's like a requirement, like a restriction or something, but whatever, it doesn't matter, who cares, I forgot. Obviously, Vanquish Soul is just really frustrating to play against because it plays a huge amount of non-engine. Yeah, it's the kind of deck that just, like I said, it does turn 0 things. Like, it's the kind of deck that can get nibbed on the opponent's turn, which is a little stupid, but I mean, it technically can happen, but it's probably never gonna happen. And then Yummy is the second best deck, and as you can see, there's really not that much of a gap between Vanquish Soul and Yummy. Even when you look at like the events that people are, you know, winning with, like the decks that people are using to win, it's really tight between Yummy and Vanquish Soul. Sometimes it's Yummy, like for example in Japan it was Yummy, and then in China it was Vanquish Soul all the way, and then only one Orchist in top 8. And then Taiwan was K9 Vanquish Soul. Korea, that was K9 Crystron, which is not even like the same thing. So yeah, it's always like K9 variations or like Yummy or like sometimes Maliss or whatever, because obviously it's still an extremely good deck. Which is why it feels like a triangular format between the 3 Justice Hunters deck, because Dracotail is still extremely good, but it really isn't when you think about it, because Dracotail has been falling off in play completely because it doesn't have a great K9 matchup, since it really always has to use effects in the hand or grave, so it will always trigger the opponent's Izuna and Lupus, whereas Yummy, on the other hand, everything is like an inherent summon, so they don't activate anything in the hand or grave, obviously other than the hand shops, which even then, like, they can play, you know, Dominus Purge as well as Songs of the Dominators, and then they don't really have to care too much. So yeah, Yummy I think is a great meta call if people are expected to play K9 cards, and K9 cards are probably the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Next format. I'm not gonna lie, I think it is probably one of the best engines this game has ever seen, like in the top 5. I would even go as far as to say that not K9 Vanquish Soul, but the K9 engine overall is close to tier 0, because if you factor in like every deck that is playing a K9 engine somewhere, honestly, I can't really think of like too many decks that wouldn't want to consider it. Obviously, Vanquish Soul is infinitely better with the full K9 engine than it is without. Like, there's a huge gap between, you know, only playing Izuna and Lupus and then playing the whole family, because even though it says like 29 Vanquish Soul, it doesn't mean that it plays 0 K9 cards. That's what you have to understand. Everybody's playing Izuna and Lupus as, you know, generic handshops because, I mean, they're generic. Even Dragotail I've seen with a K9 engine, which is really impressive, like pretty much 10% here. Actually a little more because there's also Fiendsmith K9 Dragotail, which, I mean, is a little redundant. K9 Crystron, yeah, this is, oh my god, such an incredible deck. It's in the top 5 best decks, but I actually think if you played really well, there's really not that much of a gap between K9 Crystron and K9 Vanquish Soul. This deck is like unstoppable with handshops. Like you can draw sometimes like multiple imperms and it just does nothing. That's the reason why people are playing turn skip handshops instead of, you know, Valor imperm and stuff like that. Like all those handshops, they're really just not, they're no longer worth playing. Anyway, Sky Striker, yeah, that kind of sucks. Honestly, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's cool. They have Chameleon in the OCG, but in the TCG, we don't have any of that. Pure K9. This deck can actually Gimmick Puppet Nightmare lock your opponent without Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. It's so basically, if you draw Jokool and Artifact Mjolnir, you go Jokool, summon itself, and Mjolnir, and then you make, like, you get your search for Little Lantern, and then you make your Ripper, whatever, and then, yeah, you keep playing, and then you make the Princess Conquery. And then, yeah, this is where you just destroy the opponent. You just give it to, like, the opponent, and then your opponent cannot special summon non-artifact monsters until the end of the next turn. It's really dumb. It like, the artifact monster is really just a Gimmick Puppet Nightmare that's a level 5. So, yeah, if you special summon it from the graveyard on your opponent's turn, you lose. Actually, if you summon it from any location on your opponent's turn, you lose. But, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Who cares? Anyways, White Forest, yeah. Lunalight, I think this deck has been performing a little better recently, but at first, I don't think it was seeing too much play. If I look at, like, the past OCG metagame breakdown, yeah, it was actually not too bad. Yeah, Lunalight was there. Yeah, okay, so you see, like, pretty much top 6 best decks. 3, 4, 5, 6, there you go. And now, in, like, the compilation, it's, like, probably at the very bottom of the top 10. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, okay. So yeah, Lunalight you can expect be a little better in the TCG because there's no Maxi and stuff like that, so the deck has to worry about less things. So I think this deck is really scary, especially since, again, we don't even have, like, K9 stuff yet. So there's less handshops that can really effectively counter Lunalight. Which is why it is a deck that I really, really believe in right now until we get Justice Hunters. And even then, afterwards, it might still randomly become, like, a good meta call. Anyways, I'm not gonna cover, like, all these decks because there's, like, way too many. But yeah, you get the point, you know, Blue Eyes, Orchest, whatever, who cares. And then Raziel, Despia, Gem Knight, just because those decks are interesting. And then Archmage, okay, yeah, alright, cool. And then Mermail, Memento, Tenpai, K9 Cyber Dragon, this deck sucks. I don't understand why I keep seeing it in, like, you know, the top tier list of, you know, the tier list that people are making the OCG. It makes no sense, and it's not representative of what people are playing. Anyways, for Vanquish Soul, the reason why this deck is so much better now is because it has a huge, I mean, it got a huge consistency boost from, not Justice Hunters. Well, yes, from Justice Hunters, but especially from Duelist Advance because of Holy Sue and Vanquish Soul Start, which are, you know, actual Vanquish Soul direct support cards. And also, Holy Sue being a level 5 just means that it synergizes even more with the K9 engine. And the K9 engine was already good in the deck because of the Jiaolong, which is a level 5. So now the deck list that people are playing in the OCG, they have pretty much no correlation with what people are playing in the TCG. Because there's 3 Holy Sue and 3 Jiaolong. In the TCG, we're seeing like 2 to 3 Holy Sue with typically 1 Jiaolong. So way less level 5s because they just sit there in your hand doing pretty much nothing. But again, over there in the OCG, you summon them off of Jokool, so yeah, it does make sense. And as you can see, again, 3 Holy Sue, 3 Izuna, so that's 6 in-engine handshops, and then you also have, like, the actual handshops, so Fua, Ash, Maxi. It's pretty scary, because all those handshops, they're really good if they resolve on the opponent, and these 6 handshops, they're unaffected by Call by the Grave and stuff like that. Honestly, it's not really fun to have to, like, play against this deck, like I said. There's just so many handshops that you have to be afraid of every single time. They can do so much on your own turn, and also the heavy burgers and the Caesars so that they can dodge Valor and Imperm and stuff like that on Raisin. But nobody is playing Imperm anymore because the card is just way too low impact. The extra deck, I mean, there is a Codebreaker Virus Swordsman. I'm really gonna have to, like, look into that because I know it's, like, a really good virus target, but apart from that, it's maybe just to, like, run over Baguska, which does make sense. It's really just, like, 2 monsters, and then it has, like, a lot of attack. Because Nightmare Cerberus is not a real out to Baguska. If your opponent summons Baguska in the extra monster zone, then your Cerberus doesn't actually destroy anything. And with SP Little Knight, you can't summon it easily in the deck. I mean, you can, but you can't link off the rocks to the Vanquish or whatever, because that's that monster cannot be used as a link material, like, ever, I think. But yeah, and by the way, one really weird thing about this deck is that even though it lost Paradise Smasher, which is kind of like the Shockmaster for rank 5, you need 3 level 5s to ensure that you got like a 91-92% chance of successfully resolving it. This deck is still as good, because it changed nothing. It wasn't even like the main win condition for it. It's not even like the deck was trying to like cheese wins all the time with this card. It was really just when the opponent was like dropping a Maxi or Molchemi, they were like, you know what, you don't want me to play, so I'm not gonna make you play either. But they can easily just destroy you without Paradise Smasher, so the deck is still just as good as ever, even without one of the best rank 5s this game has ever seen, granted that we've got an engine that finally allows you to spam rank 5 super easily. So yeah, this is very concerning for us, because if we have Paradise Smasher, then obviously there's no Max C, so maybe people are always gonna try to turbo it out. Or, you know, if there is like if there is a ban list that destroys this card, then we still, like, we know in advance that it's not going to be enough, because the deck is still extremely broken. And honestly, I really doubt that any Vanquish Soul cards will get preemptively hit, because as it currently stands, Vanquish Soul is not like an unfair deck, like, at all. If anything, people were complaining that the deck was underpowered for all these years, and now that all of a sudden it's going to be broken, it's not really like the deck is going to get hit. So I think K9 Vanquish Soul is probably going to be dominating for like the next Yu-Gi-Oh year for sure. Apart from that, Yummy, obviously this deck, it really went through like a lot of iterations. As you can see now, it plays the Sky Striker engine, but at first it wasn't playing it, because if you went you know, Hornet to summon a token, it would just get bounced back by Dracotail Altherion, and then you would basically lose a lot of value. So the way to kind of like fix that was play this, like the P-Race map, so that you can search Cup Yummy, which, I don't know, I guess plays better into like a bounce. It really doesn't matter, because nobody's playing Dracotail anyways. This deck became like a very good meta call against the K9 decks, because exactly like I said, the actual Yummy cards themselves, they don't activate in the hand or grave, so you're not really giving like a window of opportunity for your opponent to like resolve Izuna on turn 0, which does matter, because that card is infuriating to play against. Like I said, it's like you're really just like playing on your own turn, and then out of nowhere your opponent can summon any rank 5 monster pretty much in the game, and you can't target it because of Lupus, which is really stupid. Yeah, this deck also plays a huge amount of 1-card starters and hand traps at the same time, so it's like one of the best decks at like balancing engine non-engine. So yeah, 9, 12, 15, yes, 16 1-card starters if we include Prosperity, and then for the hand traps, 17 hand traps with a Droplet, a Cross Out, and 2 Called By. Yeah, that's like what, 21 non-engine, 16 starters, and then like 3 bricks, quote unquote, so the 2 field spells and the 1 quick play spell card. That's it. This deck is just the nuts. It's actually completely crazy, and you can even play like Widow Anchor if you want to, in case like there's still Detonator running around, but I really doubt that's gonna happen. A very flexible side deck as well, and by the way, Vanquitops, even though we're seeing it in this Vanquish Soul side deck, it's usually a card that's also played against Yummy, because the end board, all the monsters are like super weak, so you can go like summon Vanquitops, run over Herald, and then effect destroy like something, and then you don't have to worry about their Omnigate and their quick effect Book of Moon 2 monsters, because you haven't used any card or effect, so they can't like respond to do anything yet. So it's a really good side deck card now. That's the reason why a lot of OCG players are siding Vanquitops. And it's also an Earth attribute monster. Not that it really matters, but it could matter if you're playing Vanquish Soul. So yeah, it's always better to play good attributes than cards that just don't have an attribute, basically. And again, the K9 cards, they're either Earth or Dark. So again, very insane synergy for this deck. Dracotail, yeah, this deck's not really seeing any play anymore, but at first it was really good because it could just go turn 0 Dracotail Fimenas to summon the Altherion and then bounce back stuff. So it was, again, pretty much like Holy Sue, but Holy Sue is better just because Vanquish Soul is a better deck because it plays K9 cards, which are completely busted cards because they just plus like crazy, and you're always regenerating your hand all the time, so it's like you're comboing off in Vanquish Soul, but you're also like getting back cards in your hand so that you got Earth and Dark monsters to reveal for your Vanquish Soul effects. So you're never really negging, and you don't lose to hand traps either, because Ripper can negate hand traps, and like your monsters basically become better whenever your opponent uses the monster effect in the hand or graveyard that turn. And Dracotail is that one deck that always has to use effects in the hand or grave, so it'll always play into Izuna, which is terrible for the deck. But it's a great fusion deck, it's a great mid-range deck, it plays a nasty amount of hand traps, and it also doesn't really lose to anything in particular. I mean, it loses to like some floodgates, obviously, like non-fusion area and stuff like that. Retaliating Sea is a huge problem for this deck, and Vanquish Soul, it doesn't really feel like it loses to like anything. There's no one real floodgate that wipes the floor with Vanquish Soul, whereas with Dracotail, there is, which is the reason why a lot of Dracotail players have made the switch to Vanquish Soul instead. And as you can see, this deck is like really teched out. I mean, they're playing Shaddoll Beast in order to summon Shaddoll Winda. That's kind of scary. And also the Magistus monster is always treated as Alistair the Invoker, I believe, or like only on the field, so you can make invoke Kaliga. Imagine if you make Kaliga and Winda on turn 1. How do you lose? Like, this is insane. And this fusion monster, which is stupid, it's broken against Dragon and Spellcaster decks, and this deck is a Dragon and Spellcaster deck. So if you summon this in the mirror match, you win the game on the spot. Really stupid. Yeah, apart from that, I mean, there's Maliss, but I'm not really gonna waste my time with this. The only reason why Maliss started doing well, like, recently, is because people cannot afford to respect the deck too much in the side deck. They need their side deck cards for the other decks, you know, like Vanquish Soul, Yummy. This deck doesn't have as much to worry about anymore, so every now and then it just sneaks like some wins here and there, but I think it's still a deck that is not on the same level as Yummy and K9 Vanquish Soul, but it's still obviously an extremely broken deck. Furthermore, Appaloosa is now banned, so yeah, this deck also just doesn't beat handshaps as well as it used to be. I mean, as well as it used to. I guess it still does, though. It's really not the end of the world. But now you actually have to use your brain if you want to beat Nibiru. Although nobody's playing Nibiru. I mean, the Dracotail, I guess, because they can't play Imperm and stuff like that. But yeah, this deck's not playing Nibiru anywhere. And yeah, I guess 2 Nibirus here in the side deck. I don't know why it's there. Maybe just for going first. I don't know. Maybe if we're going second, even. Like, you want to make a really huge board? Okay, sure. But if you want to make like a small board, I'm just going to break it. I guess that can be the logic. Yeah, overall, in conclusion, Vanquish Soul is always the dominating deck. You can see, like, how ahead of the curve it is, like, compared to, like, everything else. It's actually really scary. It's a really terrifying deck. It's the deck that is basically just topping everything, like, non-stop. It has, like, tier 0 numbers in terms of topping, but in terms of winning, I mean, it's still kind of, like, diverse between Vanquish Soul, Yummy, and Maliss. Dracotail doesn't win anything. It's actually the worst out of the top 4 decks, even though like it was presented as the 3rd best deck. I disagree. And then, I mean, obviously, because it included like the results at the very start of the format, but now things have changed. And then, yeah, Yummy, 2nd best deck. It's the best deck to counter K9 Vanquish Soul, because again, you are now triggering effects in the hand or graveyard with your engine, but you still will with your hand traps, unless you decide to just say, screw the chummies, screw those kinds of cards. I want to play, you know, like Imperm and stuff like that instead, and Purge, and Songs of the Dominators, but whatever, you might as well just play Purlia at the very least, because Purlia wipes the floor with K9 Vanquish Soul. It's extremely good, and Fua is not, like, particularly good, but whatever. I mean, Fua is still a really good card against everything else, and it's also pretty good against Yummy, so yeah, it's a very good deck, honestly. I think, personally, I actually prefer Yummy than K9 Vanquish Soul, even though none of them fit my playstyle. Crystron fits my playstyle, of course. You already knew that, though. That's not really new information. But this deck, I don't know. It feels clean, you know? I like looking at a deck where everything is simple and easy to understand, you know? Like, you got your 15 starters, your 21 non-engine, and then your 3 bricks, which aren't even terrible. Like, worst case, you draw them. It's not even like it's Garnets. It's really just like you'd rather not draw them if you have, like, a good engine hand. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about the OCG format in the comment section below. I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.